Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. Today, we go back to a galaxy far, far away with some interesting casting news for the future. Disney makes a bold statement by restoring some previously cut footage from the upcoming Lightyear, and Mike Myers is back, baby, and we think that's groovy. So join us as we discuss all this and everything else that happened this week in Geek. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace. My name is Kev, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Tonight, we are without our beautiful bearded brother, Nate, but that's okay, because keeping me company this evening is our beautifully non-bearded brother, J-Law. How we doing tonight, buddy?
Good, man. Good. I'm kind of bearded. I got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, I guess. Or
I think you would look terrific in a beard.
I get too itchy, man. I can't grow that beard.
I know, and it's such a shame because you could. It's not comfortable. Whereas I can't, and I need it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Had a good weekend. Ready to start another week. Getting all geared up for the Oscars next weekend. So that's always exciting.
Oh, it was a fun time. That conversation that we had, episode's out now, so you can definitely go take a listen. But our Oscar prediction episode was a good time. Listening back, it didn't feel that long, but you definitely have to be someone who's committed to the Oscars.
I think you have to care about the Oscars. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
But I assure you, folks, tonight's show will be much more concise, a little bit quicker. And I guess with that said, why don't we jump right into the news? It's all about the details. Alrighty, our first story comes from Jenna Green at Deadline. This is news that Addams Family fans have been hoping for since the new Netflix series Wednesday was first announced. Christina Ricci, the actor most closely associated with the title character, will be a major part of the live-action show from Tim Burton. Ricci, who starred as Wednesday Addams in the Barry Sonnenfeld-directed 1990s Addams Family feature franchise, is a series regular in Wednesday, which is headlined by Jenna Ortega in the title role. Details about Ricci's role are being kept under wraps to protect the surprise for fans, but it was revealed that she plays a new character and not an older version of Wednesday, which I found very interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Yeah, the coming-of-age comedy, written by Smallville creators Al Goof and Miles Millar, and directed by Burton, stars Ortega as Wednesday Addams during her years at Nevermore Academy. It's described as a sleuthing, supernaturally infused mystery. In addition to Ortega, and this is the news that really sparked my interest because I didn't know this, Ricci stars alongside Catherine Zeta-Jones as matriarch Morticia Addams and Louise Guzman as Gomez Addams. That, I think, is awesome.
Yeah, that's really good casting. I think it's great that they're bringing back at least a familiar face that helped sort of build the identity of Wednesday. It's great to see they're bringing her back to be a part of this series. And in some way, it is interesting, though, that it's not going to be like an older version. So I'm wondering, is she going to be a teacher potentially at the school?
Some people are speculating that she's going to play a character similar to the one Thora Birch played in the movies. So sort of almost, I'm not sure if it's a nemesis, or I'm really not really sure, but she did replace Thora Birch, who walked away from the project earlier. So, no, it's definitely cool that they brought her back in a movie with some really iconic performances from, Angelica Houston and especially Raul Julia. Christina Ricci was able to really stand out even amongst them as Wednesday, and so though she's not playing the same role, it's great to just have her be a part of this because it was so iconic for her many years ago.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this series, just because, again, it's been so long since we've gotten something Addams Family related.
Well, in the live action spectrum, right?
Exactly, in the live action. Yeah.
We had the Oscar Isaac animated film that came out a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, Oscar Isaac was the voice of
Gomez.
What's the father's name? Gomez. Yeah, he was the voice of Gomez. So I think the biggest thing for me was the intrigue around this show is the fact that they are bringing it back to live action, right? Like you said, we've had other iterations of the Addams Family in animated capacity, and I guess that tongue-in-cheek humor of what the Addams Family is, I think in itself, people were just like, oh, it works better in an animated style. But it'll be interesting to see how this is all going to turn out, especially with someone like Tim Burton behind it. Like, come on.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the movies from the 90s are terrific movies, and Sarah and I will watch them every other Halloween, I'd say. And they still hold up to this day. And so if there was anybody who could sort of take on a new iteration of it, I think Tim Burton is absolutely perfect for the job.
That has me more excited, in all honesty, than Christina Ricci. It definitely helps to have her added to the cast, but I'm interested to see what Tim Burton's going to do with this story. So
100%. Well, interestingly enough, another actor from the 90s movies is in our next bit of news. This story comes from Aaron Couch at Hollywood Reporter, who reports that a new cast member will be joining Mandalorian Season 3, and where he's going, this actor won't need roads, but a hyperdrive might help. That's right, Christopher Lloyd is adding another iconic sci-fi franchise to his storied career. The Back to the Future actor is on the call sheet for The Mandalorian, which is currently filming its third season, woohoo, in Southern California. Character details for his role are being kept locked in the trunk of a DeLorean, but it has been described as guest starring in Nature. Lloyd played time-traveling scientist Dr. Emmett Brown in the Back to the Future trilogy, with the role becoming the most enduring in his long career. On the sci-fi front, he also played the villainous Klingon commander Kruge in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. He was great in that. He's also a multiple Emmy winner, mostly for his role in the seminal sitcom Taxi. I mean, The Mandalorian, for the first two seasons, has done a great job of bringing actors who should feel weird in the Star Wars environment, but somehow just become natural in that role. And so to take somebody as iconic as, Dr. Emmett Brown himself and putting him in Star Wars, I think it's a pretty exciting bit of casting.
Yeah, like this casting kind of feels similar to Pelimoto, played by... gosh, I can't remember her name.
Amy Sedaris, I believe.
Amy Sedaris. There you go, Kev. That's the memory. Yeah, this feels like, again, because the article says it's in a guest starring capacity, I imagine that's what this is going to be. It'll be something that is very light. But again, it's really cool to hear that Christopher Lloyd is going to be in Star Wars content, right? Like you said, his history is just... He is a pop culture icon from what he's been able to star in, and obviously Back to the Future being one of the biggest franchises that really propelled his career. So I'm excited to see in what capacity, and it's got me thinking, like, could he be like another scavenger? Could he be just the voice of a droid? You know what I mean? Like what capacity could you see Christopher Lloyd? It's definitely not going to be like some sort of hoity-toity general of some kind. You know what I mean? I think his character, given who Christopher Lloyd is right now, might be more like, again, a Pelimoto.
Well, and I wonder, is he going to be a humanoid like Bill Burr, for instance, or will they go the Artie Lang route and have him play a more alien race like he did in Star Trek 3? So yeah, there's definitely lots of questions about what his capacity will be. Is it a one episode? Does he have a couple appearances? But I certainly agree. I can't see him on the bridge of a Star Destroyer as somebody in the Imperial Army. That's for sure.
Yeah, it would be. I do see, though, him being an ally to Mando rather than a foe. Unless, for whatever reason, he has to sell out Mando to, for the betterment of his future, if you will. So who knows?
Dr. Brown in Star Wars. Let's go. I'm all for it. Now, our next bit of casting news is actually speculation, as every few months or so, rumors pop up about a former boy wizard potentially taking on a massively iconic role in the MCU. As reported by Jeremy Dick from MovieWeb.com, we all know that the X-Men's arrival in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is imminent, but the big question remains as to who might be playing them. In particular, Wolverine is someone many fans want to see appear, but casting this role with the right actor might prove to be a challenge following Hugh Jackman's iconic portrayal. One name that has come up for years is Daniel Radcliffe.
Mm-hmm.
For years, Radcliffe's name has come up pretty much any time rumors of the X-Men getting rebooted in the MCU have been reported on. He has constantly denied that there's been any official involvement, though many fans have said they'd be on board with this casting. As for why his name keeps popping up with the Wolverine fantasy casting online, Radcliffe has offered his theory. The Harry Potter star boils it down to his height, as the Wolverine character was originally depicted in the comic books as shorter in stature. Radcliffe wonders if people are nominating him for the role simply because of his height. He is notoriously very short. One of the on the shorter side of Hollywood leading men, that's for sure.
For sure.
In any case, he says he's nevertheless flattered that so many fans want to see him in that role, especially as it puts him in the league of longtime Logan actor Hugh Jackman. Now, I thought it was funny because a few weeks ago we questioned the casting of Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al, only to be very impressed with early set photos. So, do you think this could be another case of Radcliffe subverting expectations if he were to be cast in such a role?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, I saw the interview with Brandon Davis on the red carpet of South by Southwest. He was promoting the movie that's out with him and Sandra Bullock and
The Lost City?
Yeah, Lost City. That's the one. Thank you. And, he asked him straight up, and he was very, very well aware of the fan casting and the rumors and so on. But I think more or less you could read from his tone, I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think he personally wants to do it. While he appreciates the fact that he is in a fan casted role, I don't know if he personally wants to do another heavy commitment for a big contract for multiple movies, very much like what he did for Harry Potter for 7 years, right? So,
well, and I was going to say, I mean, it was probably closer to 10 plus years that he was locked into that role. And so once you make a commitment like that, do you really want to do it all over again? Because, you know that Marvel and Disney will be getting the most bang for their buck with this character and other X-Men. And so there will be many, many appearances, I would imagine, over a long period of time and over many films. And so, yeah, that would be a huge commitment for somebody who already locked so much of their life into something like that.
Yeah, and I think, again, he even, I think in the same red carpet sort of interviews, someone else asked him about returning as Harry Potter. And he said, obviously, never say never, but it's not something that he would want to do. He compared it to Mark Hamill returning to the role of Luke Skywalker. There was 30 or 40 years there. It's 20 years roughly since the movies had started. So it's like, he hasn't been given that break. Again, he says never say never because I think, he knows that he is tied to that character very much so.
Well, and I mean, maybe that presents a new opportunity to be attached to something different. Instead of, every article written about him saying the boy wizard, Harry Potter this, maybe it's time to be attached to something different.
Well, that's why it's going to be really great to see this Weird Al film. Also, Lost City, obviously coming out next week or this week actually, and Radcliffe can act, and I think the one thing that stood out to me about the Harry Potter 20th anniversary is that he started to clue in to who he was surrounded with when he was on those Harry Potter sets. Being surrounded by Alan Rickman and being able to absorb as much as he can from like actors like Gary Oldman even, right? Like he started to really want to hone in on the ability of owning his craft as an actor. And I think he saw the opportunity after he was done with those Harry Potter films to really cement himself as an actor. And he's done some great films like Swiss Army Man. I think that's the one that he's
with
in.
Him and Paul Dano, yeah.
Friggin' fantastic movie. That movie was the one that made me say like, okay, this guy is
he's
definitely
so much more than
pushing
just Harry Potter.
100%. And it's crazy how, you obviously do that for a variety of different reasons. You sign up to be Harry Potter for 7 films. Part of it is because it's a good income, obviously. There's a lot there. So you can really bank a lot. And then you can go off and do your passion projects and all those other things that you really want to do. And I think that's what he really wants to do before he gets into doing anything that would be multi-movie contract like Harry Potter was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure when he looks at his 9-figure bank account, he has very few regrets about signing up for Harry Potter 20 years ago.
For sure. But he'd look cool as Wolverine, though. He would look cool as
yeah,
Wolverine.
I've seen some
someone posted a photo.
And it looks pretty good. It's starting to sway me away from my dead set on Zac Efron. But I will say, Disney, if you're listening, Marvel, if you're listening right now, I have a casting suggestion that I think would be absolutely perfect for the role. Jared Keeso from Letterkenny. He's Canadian.
Oh.
He knows how to play rough and gruff. He's in terrific shape. I think that would be a really fun, inspired, sort of out of the box casting, and I'd love to see him play Wolverine as a similar sort of character to his Letterkenny. What's with this guy bending metal, bud? What's going on over here, bud?
That's actually probably the best route they could go, though, is take someone that is relatively unknown, like a Simu Liu, right, and put them in
Hugh Jackman kind of was when he was put.
Yeah, 100% was. Yeah, he 100% was, because I think they had what's his name, Dougherty. Yeah, Dougherty Scott was originally supposed to be Logan or the Wolverine in the original X-Men, and he decided to not go for it. And then I also think Russell Crowe was too. They wanted a heavy hitter name. Because they thought that was what's really was going to push the movie. And instead, they went with Hugh Jackman, and they're all the better for it because he basically defined that character.
Well, yeah, and given Russell Crowe's, let's call it a struggle with weight over the years, I'm not sure how inclined he was going to want to be to have to be, Jackman talks all the time about the worst part about playing that role was preparing for it and getting into that ridiculous shape and dehydrating himself for days on end before, shirtless takes and everything, just to look as chiseled and ripped as possible. And so it's certainly a role that requires a lot of commitment. And so anybody signing up for it would certainly have to be prepared for that sort of sacrifice, as a lot of actors in superhero movies probably tend to do.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, our final story comes from Kat Bailey at IGN. A same-sex kiss will reportedly be restored after quietly being cut in Disney's Lightyear. Variety reports that the restoration is happening following allegations that Disney's corporate reviews have resulted in the removal of LGBT content from the company's films. The scene involves Alicia Hawthorne, a space ranger who is also a gay woman of color. While her orientation is never in doubt in the film, a kiss that she shares with her partner was reportedly left on the cutting room floor until recently. Lightyear is written by Pete Docter and stars Chris Evans, and it imagines the Buzz Lightyear origin story that gave rise to the toy. The kiss was reportedly restored following a lengthy statement alleging that Disney encourages censorship of LGBTQ content from its films. We at Pixar have personally witnessed beautiful stories full of diverse characters come back from Disney corporate reviews shaved down to crumbs of what they once were, the letter read. Even if creating LGBTQIA plus content was the answer to fixing the discriminatory legislation in the world, we are being barred from creating it. And so, yeah, Luca, Inside Out, and Soul are also some films cited, with studio leadership allegedly removing signifiers of queer identity from background shots, among other decisions. And Disney has recently been mired in controversy over its monetary support of legislators behind Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which prohibits the teaching of LGBTQ subjects in the classroom. Disney CEO Bob Chapek has since apologized, but Disney employees are planning a walkout while putting forward additional demands. And so, yeah, this feels very like of the moment. This is a big time for Disney to sort of step up and I think do the right thing as it involves, anything in the LGBTQ community. I think it's 2022. There's such a dominant force in the industry, in entertainment industry, that they need to be on the right side of history here, and this is just one small step that I think is very important.
I couldn't agree more. I think on the Turning Red spoiler discussion, we had Joanne and Megan Clara Draws, and we were talking about this, and actually Joanne brought it up, and she mentioned it's kind of a hard pill to swallow right now because she really enjoyed a lot of what Turning Red did in terms of telling the story about a girl having to go through puberty in a way that was digestible for a larger audience. It was approachable. It wasn't a Big Mouth-esque, if you know what I mean, very direct and to the point. But that being said, it's these things that sort of slow the process of Disney actually moving the needle forward, right? in many ways, I've always said that Disney was taking awareness into maybe the idea that they were in some ways perpetuating ideologies and around race and culture that were miscued and sort of exploiting that for their own profitability, while we see a lot of their new content being very hyper aware of cultural sensitivities. This feels like 10 steps backwards, right? Like they don't want to necessarily step on the toes of the people, of the politicians that they've funded and that they take part in and so on. So they're saying, oh, let's just remove these little bits. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to know that was there. And that just doesn't seem right, because especially that community, the LGBTQ community, is such a huge supporter of Disney. Like it doesn't make any sense. So, Chapnick having to, come out and address this situation finally and apologize and issue a statement, it still hasn't gone over well. Like it's still in trouble.
It's a shame that it even has to be addressed. And you look at Pixar, and they've done such a great job of bringing awareness and finding a way to talk to young audiences about things like mental health, death, even puberty in Turning Red. And so it almost feels like, where has this been? How has Pixar not been a leader in bringing awareness and acceptance towards the LGBTQ community? That it's just so long overdue that, if this is the final push that they needed, it shouldn't have had to happen. But I hope that they do take advantage of this and roll in the right direction. Because like you mentioned, so many fans come from that community. And now we're seeing so many of their employees represent that community and are really upset
hurt
with the decisions going on. And so maybe this is just a small step to sort of mend that bridge.
Chapnick's on, I think, thin ice right now, in terms of just he's got a lot of eyes on him, and he has to handle this right. And their position is, we don't need to get into political situations, but at the same time, it's like, this isn't just a political situation. This is not a political situation. This is a social situation. No amount of money that Disney could throw at this is really going to resolve it. There has to be a stern force of action. I just don't know what that is. Maybe it is pulling out of those political campaigns?
Yeah, I just wish that with the powerful voice that Disney has, I wish that the resources that they commit to certain causes weren't going to fund politicians, but were going to help organizations that are promoting positivity and supporting causes, rather than funding already rich politicians and political parties that are trying to stifle these communities.
Right. Or even just go against it and just create content that does teach. Do you know what I mean? Like that would be the response that, they could do, where it is about teaching people about that, right? So that, if kids can't go to school and learn about it, well, they'll watch it on Disney Plus. They'll see it in a Disney movie. It'll have those stories.
And it's certainly an aspect that's been underrepresented, especially in the animated world. I mean, we got allusions towards it in Mitchell's versus the Machines. But other than that, I can't really think of a mainstream animated movie for kids and families that fully just supports and embraces that community. And so I guess we'll just have to see.
Well, it's going to be great. I'm glad that at least they're adding back what was removed from Lightyear. And really, at the end of the day, it might be a very small scene. It might just be something that, was cut for no reason other than because it did promote same-sex relations. And it's really just maybe a very medial, sort of just a goodbye, farewell, I'll see you soon sort of kiss. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to have...
it doesn't seem like it's the moment that's in question here is pushing any sort of agenda.
Exactly.
It's meant to, if anything, normalize this sort of
lifestyle.
And so the fact that something so subtle, so just natural, is so they're worried that it'll ruffle feathers. I hope it ruffles feathers. That's what we need to make a change for in the right direction. So good on Disney for addressing it, even though it probably shouldn't have had to be an issue at all. But that said, that wraps it up for the news. Why don't we cue the banjo, because
it's trailer time.
All right, our first trailer is for an upcoming miniseries from Hulu. Candy tells the story of Candy Montgomery, a 1980 housewife and mother who did everything right. Good husband, 2 kids, nice house, even the careful planning and execution of transgressions. But when the pressure of conformity builds within her, her actions scream for just a bit of freedom, with deadly results. The show stars Jessica Biel, Melanie Linsky, Timothy Simmons, Pablo Schreiber, Raul Esparza, and the show debuts on May 9th. What did you think of the trailer, Jess?
I thought it was interesting. I'm interested to see Jessica Biel kind of become a character. She looks so different. This reminded me of there's a series actually out right now with Renee Zellweger called Pam, and it's very much about this sort of suburban lifestyle, secret murder. I haven't watched very much of it, but I see a lot of previews for it. It has got me interested because Renee Zellweger totally put on prosthetics. Like, she looks entirely different. She's a whole other character in this thing. And I'm interested to see how Jessica Biel becomes transformed in this character's role. And in this, it seems very different for her to be taking on something like that. And she's been out of the spotlight for a little while. She hasn't really done too much acting. So, to come back with this role, who knows? It could win her an Emmy, or definitely get her nominated for one.
I could definitely see that. I mean, I do want to first say I'm just looking now at the thing about Pam, and wow, Renee really is unrecognizable there. And so, yeah, it's very similar in that here's a chance for Jessica Biel to play an actual an actual person based on a true story. And you're right, we haven't really seen her in that role. And so, yeah, it's definitely a new spin for her. And I think the tone of this trailer was great. It didn't give too much away, but I loved how, I think very much like the show itself, it shows that even though on the surface everything might look perfect, there's a seedy underbelly to everything. And yeah, it looks like there's going to be a lot of tension, a lot of just, I'm excited for the show tonally. It reminds me of a show with Patricia Arquette that was out, and Billy King that was out a few years ago.
Oh,
it was The Act.
Oh, right. Yes, I never watched it.
No, that was good. It was good. And so, yeah, this reminds me very much of that. Again, another true story, sort of brought to a miniseries.
Yeah, the look of it reminds me very much of David Fincher's Mindhunter, or even Zodiac to a certain degree, but more Mindhunter. But then a little bit of like a True Detective vibe as well. But I don't know. Again, they're all kind of the same sort of breadth of style. But then you have, again, this sort of wholesome suburban mother, at the core of it, played by Jessica Biel. Like, it has a lot of layers to it that make it really interesting. And in the trailer, when they get to those like quick cuts of like the sort of startling and the tender moments and the horrifying moments, it's like you really get a sense that the show is going to be all over the place in that, and a real mystery, and everyone loves mysteries, right? Murder mysteries. So
absolutely. Well, speaking of murdering, our next trailer definitely involves a lot of that, because season 3 for Barry is finally almost here. The HBO hit returns after 2 years. Barry tells the story of a hitman from the Midwest who moves to Los Angeles and gets caught up in the city's theater art scene. Barry stars Bill Hader, Stephen Root, Sarah Goldberg, Anthony Carrigan, and Henry Winkler. Season 3 starts on April 24th, so we're about a month out. And yeah, after 2 years, I am so ready for this show to be back.
So I have to admit, when this showed up in our Discord feed, I was like, oh yeah, Barry. I haven't watched a single episode. Actually, that's not true. I've watched a few episodes. And Bill Hader is absolutely fantastic. And he is the whole reason that I would want to check out the show. This teaser definitely does have me very intrigued of what would have happened at the end of season 2 or in season 2 that would lead to the events of this very tense teaser. Because again, for myself, I know Bill Hader, there is a comedy aspect to the show that I definitely appreciate. It's more of a dark comedy, but here this was all darkness. Like, this was just darkness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say anything, because I really do encourage you to. This is the perfect time, I think, for you to jump in. Mm-hmm. There's 16 episodes. You could easily watch it. before season 3 hits. But yeah, season 2 ends on a real low note for our titular character, and so yeah, season 3 is going to, I think, like you said, it was a dark comedy. I think we're really going to focus on the dark here.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that there's these large gaps, especially with COVID, right? Like especially with COVID sort of exasperating those long breaks between seasons. But like, yeah, 2 years waiting for a show. I'm sure you're appetizing.
I'm itching because usually I'm on the other end of it where a new season will be coming out for a show and I'll go and catch up right before that. I did that with Succession, and so never had to wait those long gaps. I did it for Ozark and never really had those huge gaps in between. But
I did it for Game of Thrones.
Oh, there you go.
I think I watched like all 6 seasons before season 7. And like, because Game of Thrones was so big, right? Like in terms of gaps because of the production value. And it was like when season 7 dropped, that was the final season. I was ready to rock. So
you're the reason you jinxed it by jumping on the bandwagon.
Probably. That's why it turned out so shit.
A little disappointing, but that's probably a discussion.
Well, hopefully Barry doesn't.
You know what? It's such a great show, such great characters. Anthony Carrigan is hilarious. Henry
is
Winkler,
he the bald guy?
Yeah, he's the bald guy. Yeah. He was
funny in the clips
fun.
That I saw. Mm-hmm.
You know, Stephen Root. He almost always plays like the nice guy, the affable guy. But whenever he does play a darker, evil, bad guy, he's so good in that, and you just want to reach in through your TV and punch him right in the face. So, lots of great performances here.
He's such a surprising actor, Stephen Root. Like, he can be like the silly comedy, but he can also, like you said, go that really dark, serious tone that is just it feels so opposite of
Milton from Office Space. I need my stapler.
It's true. Awesome,
I mean,
awesome.
like 2 of his earlier roles that would have gotten him recognized are, Milton from Office Space, and then even his character in Dodgeball. And so,
which was very much like Milton, right? Like,
yes,
it was very much like
meek
that. Yeah.
And so when he gets to really chomp into something and show his acting gravitas, he's terrific.
He's had a very robust career, clearly. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into our final trailer. This comes from the kooky mind of Mike Myers. Penteva, what the beep, as one of the characters in the trailer says, tells the story of an unlikely Canadian journalist who finds himself embroiled in a mission to uncover the truth and just possibly save the world himself. The show hits Netflix on May 5th, and I will say that description is rather bland in contrast to the absolute insanity that we got in this trailer.
Yeah, it was a wild trailer. It was definitely
batshit to an extreme.
Yeah, it definitely feels tonally different from the Austin Powers series, obviously, but similar in that, obviously it's Mike Myers playing a mixed bag of characters throughout the series. So it is going to be fun to see, especially because, like, I what I'm getting from it is obviously a serious tone with comedic characters involved. Do you know what I mean? Like the story and the premise is probably going to be very serious, and then the punchline of the joke will be that it's not really that serious. But at the end of the day, these characters in this sort of serious world are going to be the comedic, gold mine, if you will. So, and already in that trailer, how many characters did we see of Mike Myers?
I think spotted at least 3 or 4.
4, yeah, I saw 3 or 4. So, and who knows who else he'll potentially play, right?
Right, and then, I mean, the cast is bolstered by Keegan-Michael Key, Ken Jeong's in it. You get the sultry Dosset tones of Jeremy Irons as the narrator, That hooked me alone right there.
It definitely has me interested that Jeremy Irons would be interested in doing something here.
100%.
And even Ken Jeong, man, like the fact that he would actually, like, I would see him thinking, oh, that's just, he's doing that gimmick again. Mike Myers is doing that gimmick again. Like, it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together.
Well, and I'm certainly ready for it. I mean, we haven't seen much of Mike Myers in the last 10 to 15 years even. He had a small role in Inglourious Bastards. He had a small role in Bohemian Rhapsody, but the last time he did one of his signature character-based movies was The Love Guru, which was absolute poop. And so I'm hoping this sort of propels his career and reinvigorates it a little bit, and doesn't lay a big stinking turd like The Love Guru.
Yeah, especially because it was based in Toronto, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And it revolved around the Leafs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, finally a movie about the Leafs, and it was terrible. I will say that was the movie that got me convinced at Justin Timberlake's comedic skills, because he was amazing as the French-Canadian goalie in that movie. But that's about the only positive thing I could say about that. Yeah. And it's a shame that a movie about the Leafs winning the cup made me angry somehow.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see what it's all about. I again, when we were in high school, you and I loved those Austin Powers movies. I'm pretty sure we went a couple times on opening night to see them, at least for 2 and 3, for sure, right? I think we saw 1 together in theaters, but we definitely, for 2 and 3, we went opening night and laughed our asses off. So
100%.
It'll be a fun time to actually take in a Mike Myers, multi-character movie.
What a time we're in, that all these comedic actors from our childhood are they've stepped away from that and then are coming back. We have Jim Carrey, in the Sonic movies after taking a far more serious spin for many years there. And now, Mike Myers is back doing what he's known for.
Netflix threw a lot of money at him, and he was like, fuck yeah, I'll do that.
Let's go. And money talks, baby. Money talks. Well, that is it for trailers. Before we wrap things up, as we always do, I thought it would be a good time to find out what you've been watching, what you've been reading, what you've been playing. Anything worth sharing?
Well, I think the only thing worth sharing, after our Oscars discussion, having seen almost all of the animated films on Best Animated, but having not seen Flea, and based on your recommendation, 100%, I went and checked out Flea. And this is again, the best way to describe it is a documentary story about a refugee who is basically running from his own identity. And it's told through the storytelling power of animation. And I thought, that is really what celebrates animation, is finding a way to leverage the art style to tell the story. I think every other movie in that category does such a great job of opening the door of telling stories to a younger generation and imparting wisdom. Flea feels very outside of all of those other films because it is a real story about a real person who had to deal with a lot of suffering to just get to a place of being happy with their life. And it was so well done with the art style, from sort of the sort of vibrant, clean look of his time when he was younger and when he was living in Afghanistan, and then juxtaposed with these dark, spotty, blurred, very intense moments that just the look of it creates the feeling of feeling lost and feeling it like you're in a dark place. So such a great job with the movie. And I just love the idea that it's more of a documentary than it is told through animation. It feels very very much like a Richard Linklater film, where it's kind of a rotoscope, but at the same time, it's probably not. Like, it's definitely they've drawn in elements and stuff like that to help tell the story better. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, it's on Prime. If you're a Prime member, you can watch it, no problem. I was very happy to see that I didn't have to rent it anywhere or anything like that. It was available. And again,
that would have been information useful to me a week ago before I rented it on Apple Plus.
So sorry. I just searched it and it showed up. And maybe it's because it is really getting closer to the Oscars that they are showing up on these platforms. But also, kudos to these platforms for picking up these movies. Maybe not in time for the Oscars for Kevin, but definitely just picking them up so that they can live somewhere and they can be seen. Because I think last year, even for, I believe, Best Doc, maybe, I can't recall, don't quote me on it, but last year we did see some animated content and some documentary content celebrated at the Oscars, and they were on Netflix. They were things that you could go and watch. I think one of them was an animated short that I actually checked out after seeing it.
That's just such a great point that you bring up, that that is really one of the most beneficial aspects of streaming platforms, is that I love how you said now these movies that would have been really, really hard to find or watch even 5 years ago now have a place to live, and they're exposed to such a larger, broader audience that can see these very important stories that are worth being told and should be heard and seen to really appreciate, just how different things are around the world.
And I honestly believe it'll win Best Doc. It should. It's been celebrated as a doc. It's inanimated for the right reasons, but I'm hoping Flea will win for Best Documentary. And I think, I just think that we talk about how the Oscars do shine a light on movies that maybe some people haven't seen, but like we're saying, we're at a time now where that can hit a streaming platform or that can be rented, and people are going to be able to turn around and do that. Maybe 20 years ago when streaming wasn't, a thing, you'd have to somehow wait for that to come out on Blu-ray or DVD and go to your Blockbuster and get it. And, if they didn't have it, you'd have to go to like a more boutique place. Like, it was really difficult. So yeah, like huge props to Amazon, Netflix. These are platforms to expose people to more stories that need to be told. So just leverage that.
Absolutely. Definitely something worth checking out. I'm glad you took my recommendation and went and checked it out.
Always take your recommendations. Come on.
I appreciate it. I mean, I know my stuff, I guess, right? As for myself, I was recently, my attention was brought to a show that aired originally from 2014 to 2017 on Comedy Central. The show's called Review. So it's basically a spoof of review shows where the host, who's played by Andy Daly, who you might know as the principal from Modern Family or the terrible doctor in Silicon Valley. And so he basically reviews everyday things based on submissions from viewers. So I'm only about 5 or 6 episodes in so far, but some of the things he's reviewed include stealing, drug addiction, making a sex tape, being a racist, getting a divorce, and eating an obscene amount of pancakes. And again, that's just the first few episodes. This show is hilarious. Basically, the host is forced to do whatever the viewers ask him to do. So when they said, we want you to review getting a divorce, he has to go ahead and get a divorce from his wife. And so often the things he has to do come with terrible consequences.
Oh, that's great. That's
when he tries out being a drug addict, he tries drugs and legitimately becomes addicted. And it's great because about 3 or 4 episodes later, that addiction is referenced and he sort of falls back on the addiction. And so I like that there's a continuity throughout the show as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's cool.
I'm watching it on Crave right now here in Canada. And it's a lot of fun. I was happy to find it. And yeah, it's really funny.
That sounds very like Office-esque, but like, you know what I mean? Like it kind of feels like it's more mockumentary. Does it have a mockumentary vibe?
Exactly. Yes. Okay, the cameras are there. There's one where he has to eat just a disgusting amount of pancakes, and he's begging the producer, like, I can't do this. And the producer sits down and says, listen, you've signed a contract. You have to do whatever we tell you to do. And, so yeah, it's that's a great analogy, is that it's sort of like a mockumentary feel to it. So cool. I would definitely recommend checking that out. It's very funny. Alrighty, well, that's it for This Week in Geek. Thanks for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love. And also, you can always reach out and say hi, ask us a question about any of the news or trailers covered today, or about anything else that we cover. You can do so by hitting us up at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT and Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering a variety of recent content, and new content is always coming out. Recently, Justin sat down with friend of the program, Rob Brunette, an illustrator for Marvel, for an awesome interview that gave us a sneak peek into his creative world. Our spoiler-free and filled reviews of Turning Red are also available. And of course, every week, Just like right now, we come at you with This Week in Geek, where we share all the latest in news, trailers, and all things Geekcentric. Then coming up, we'll have our early review for Moon Knight in advance of our next Watch Club series for the show, once it hits Disney Plus on March 30th. And finally, we have our third annual Oscars preview and prediction show, where we look at some of the biggest and most prestigious categories and give our thoughts on who should win and who will win. That is available now for your listening pleasure. But until next time, J-Law, thanks for joining me for This Week in Geek. And as we say, get home safe, guys.
Peace.